back. A good day. 6 minutes away from the top of the hour. It's often said, and you've heard this, the only winners in divorces are the lawyers. Curtis Harrison, a big fan, though, of something called collaborative law. And I thought immediately, is this mediation? It's not.
It's not. Divorce is a fact of life. It's something that we all have to deal with. We either are going through one or we know somebody who's going through one. Mediation is a wonderful tool. It's a tool that we as litigators pull out of our toolbox in order to try to short-circuit a trial, to save the parties the emotional gristmill of going through the trial. Whereas collaborative law is a complete paradigm shift. It's a completely different process that offers the parties an opportunity to keep control of the outcome for themselves and for their children.
So are both parties represented by the same attorney?
No. There's no attorney can represent both parties in the same contested litigation or the same contested conflict. What they do, however, is they go out and they retain specially trained attorneys who are familiar with the collaborative law process. Attorneys who are equipped to lay down their gladiator's armor, if you will, and to put on their settlement specialist hat and work together to try to reach a result that both parties can find acceptable.
And do you find somebody who's going to come into this kind of a process is much more willing to work with the other party and do some trade-offs? There are always going to be trade-offs. I get the dog, you get the cat.
There are definitely rubs. There are people that come into this process. It's an emotional process, whether you go through the courtroom system or whether you handle it through the collaborative law model. But properly equipped and properly informed, what parties are starting to do is they're starting to recognize that a judge is not equipped to make their decisions for them.
Right.
And so they're setting aside their emotion and they're treating it more like a business negotiation.
Well, let's talk about some of the ideas that are coming out of this collaborative law process. Something called nesting. What is that?
Nesting is one of the many creative solutions that we can assist the parties in negotiating, whereby during the course of a conflict or a family law dispute, rather than shuttling the children back and forth between multiple homes, we keep the kids in place. We do what we can to minimize the disruption to the children's lives, and the parents themselves will move in and out of the house on a certain schedule. And so we call that nesting.
So the kids actually have the place to stay that they consider home, and it's just mom and dad are moving in and out. Now, do mom and dad both go back to the same? Did you have two residences now, or are we talking about three? Dad has one, mom has one, and the family has one.
Typically, the nesting solution is a short-term solution during the transition phase from being spouses to being, business partners in the business of raising children. So oftentimes what parties will do is they'll go out and rent an efficiency apartment.
Right.
And they'll just circulate back and forth between those two residences.
That makes a lot of sense. Something called the 2255 plan, which is really intended to, once again, allow the kids have a little bit more stability rather than being picked up and moved every other day.
The old traditional model is called a standard possession order, and that's the cookie-cutter result that most people get when they go to litigation, they go to the courthouse. Under a 2255 plan, which is another customized solution that the parties can achieve through the collaborative process, what we do is we create a scenario in which both parents are involved on a daily basis with their children. For example, the mother might have the children every Monday and Tuesday of the week. The father might have the children every Wednesday, Thursday, and then you alternate weekends, hence the 2255 designation.
Right. So other great ideas, including having somebody what you call a financial neutral, which is somebody really who kind of sits in the middle and really helps both parties. Some great ideas in there, and we've got more information and a link to details about collaborative law and divorces on myfoxdfw.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it.